The Invest in Her podcast is brought to you in part by Wells Fargo Bank. Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation and the producer of the new movie, Show Her the Money. And we have on an excellent guest today because she is creating something so unique, so necessary, so exciting. I want to welcome to the show the founder of Radivision, which is the entrepreneurship network. Yes, an entrepreneur network about funding and founders. Like, how fabulous is that? Please welcome to the show the incredible Mona DeFrawi. Hi, Mona. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm fabulous. I mean, after an introduction like that, how could I not be?
Well,
thank you.
And let's add to that Forbes called you the most powerful woman in technology. Hello. I mean, this is incredible.
Well, one of.
Yeah, one of. Okay, we'll add one of. But hey, that's a pretty good title.
Yeah, I've worked really hard over the last 3 decades. So I'm happy they recognize that I'm really here to support this ecosystem and everyone. Yeah.
Well, you have an incredible background in all of this, investment world, equity and private equity and, alerting people to being able to invest in things before they go public. In fact, I wanted to say, I think this is the explanation that I read about it. Your network is helping everyone to understand, participate, and prosper from the private market and IPO investing. And so this is something we're preaching all around the country, around the world with our film, Show Her the Money, because we want more women stepping into this space. So you or I are so aligned on this message that, by the time things get to the public market, they've seen so much profit that people don't make that much profit on the public market. I do think everyone should diversify and have things on the public market in their real estate and their CDs, but everyone must investigate looking into these alternative opportunities that especially women haven't really been privy to. And I'm so glad that you and I have platforms for them to learn about it. So let's talk about that and exactly, what are we talking about? Yeah, exactly. You're the best one to describe it.
Well, no, you did a beautiful job describing it, and you're one of the very few people who's discovered it. Okay, most people don't even know, but everybody used to be able to invest in these companies. They used to go public in 3 to 5 years, believe it or not. Microsoft and Apple in the early mid 80s, Intel in the early 70s. There was a whole infrastructure that was built between the financial markets, New York Stock Exchange, Nasdaq, the bankers, investment bankers. There were 4 small banks, they call them the 4 horsemen, that used to do all of these IPOs. You had the T. Rowe Price and the other mutual fund who bought a lot of the IPO issues. But half of our shareholders back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s used to be retail investors. So I managed 4 IPOs as director of investor relations for the first 3, and then vice president of corporate development for the 4th over 10 straight years in the 90s. So I was very involved with these companies that were small. I mean, I was even able to have 3 children and 4 IPOs in 10 years. So I was busy, a lot of startups.
Wait a minute. Which ones caused you more trouble?
The children. The IPOs, there was a lot of infrastructure. There was a lot of support built in. So, our bankers would write reports on us. We would get to present at conferences. There was a whole stockbroker infrastructure. Merrill Lynch used to be there, dialing for dollars and helping to bring in people like my parents who are college professors. They were busy raising kids and teaching, the next generations of doctors and neuroscientists. And, they weren't able to manage their portfolio, but they had a stockbroker who would call them up and get them into deals, and companies went public in 3 to 5 years. So today it's 11 to 14 years on average before a company can go out. Only 1% of venture companies actually IPOs. And I just learned this fact and I was shocked. And I've been doing this 30 years and I didn't even know that venture capital only funds 0.05%. So that means 5 1/100ths of 1%. So 99.95% of all startups don't get venture funding. Now, a lot of them may get friends and family and angel funding, but that's not how we're taught. Everything's all about getting the pitch together for the VCs and, marveling people with your great concept. But no, today's VCs want you to have a fully grown business that 20 years ago would already have been public and being supported by this infrastructure. That's
Just let me interject there. One thing I love about the fact that there's more women-founded funds starting up than ever in history is that they are willing to invest in more pre-seed or seed. They don't have to be that far along. I think women realize the opportunity there to put money into those with their funds. And they're also super cognizant of investing in women and BIPOC and LGBTQ, all the overlooked communities that really venture hasn't been investing in. And I think women see that opportunity. And that's really our mission with our, screening our film around the world. Show Her the Money is to educate women on what is venture capital, how important it is to our future, and why women should be investing in it, because there's a power in deciding what are the future innovations that are going to be our products and services of the future. And so, and a very exciting world to step into, right? You've been in it longer than most women I know, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. This is the new venture capital. Women invest in different ways. And by the way, many, many studies have been done, and we've curated as many as we can find. You can see on radivision.com/economics. We have like 30 studies there. Every single one of these studies shows when you look at all male teams versus even one co-founder, one woman, or one board member, or one C-suite member who's a woman, the numbers are higher. So if venture capital is supposed to be this data-driven industry, the data shows you should be investing 98% of your funds behind women and diverse teams, not just all male teams, but we're seeing actually the exact opposite. And so, clearly the data is showing us that women have a superpower. There's something that is there. I mean, it's the data. And whenever there's women involved, the numbers are higher, and every single study, and even, ones that have been duplicated 5-6 years later. So there's something there. And yeah, there's different voices, different experiences, different ways of looking at the world. And we've learned that when there's more diverse intelligence brought into a team, the team is stronger.
Absolutely. And if the returns are better, and the research shows that, why wouldn't we invest in women and BIPOC and LGBTQ? Why wouldn't we? It just makes smart sense.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just habit, and people feel safer. I've been in the venture industry 30 years, in and around, not in the box, but coming in from outside the box always, which is why I innovate at a different level, because I have to. Women have to work harder to succeed. My CTO said he loves hiring women engineers because they have to be better than men, because the system is built around a very adrenaline, testosterone, dopamine fueled system. That's the business world. And we want to shift that to more of a serotonin, view, which is not addictive. These are all addictive, and you have the highs and you have the crashes, and you have all this volatility and drama and chaos and loss. Whereas over here, if you can have the steady, properly centered neuroscience, behind it, you're really growing a real company with real profits and real results and real help, and everybody wins in that way. So the traditional male model is competition and it's war and you have to fight. And yes, we need the divine masculine for that, because there have been wars and there have been, protection needed from brawn and so on. Yes, that's important. We want to have a strong defense.
Yeah, it's good to have both come to the table, come together.
We don't honor
right
the
now it's like this, it's like all men and very few women. And we have to get here to balance the planet and the good of the future. And so that's, I know, a mission that we're both on. Yeah. The Radivision. Let's talk about the name, what it is, how people find it. It is the entrepreneurship network for both founders and funders, right?
Correct.
Genius, So tell us how it got started, the name, and how people can participate.
Yeah, so Radivision grew out of Radical Visionaries. So it's television for radical visionaries. So ESPN covers sports. We cover the startup world. And I thought, how is it possible that most consumers today in America, when they think of entrepreneurship, really their only experience, because the rest is happening behind the curtain, it's Shark Tank, and here's the show that doesn't explain what we really do in the tech world, but, in large scalable enterprise that creates, massive wealth, that creates lots of economic growth and jobs. But Shark Tank, you cannot deny the power of it. Over 5 million viewers annually now, 15 years of success, millions of dollars are spent, and millions of downloads of apps just from one pitch. So the power of mass media, mass consumer communication, needed to be harnessed in a way to participate. And also, when I did my 4 IPOs in 10 years in the 90s, half of my shareholders were retail investors. They were consumer or Main Street investors. Those are all synonyms. So angel investors also, those are all the same thing, except companies used to be public back then. So they weren't angels. They were just stockholders, shareholders. Today, they have to be angels, because to get in at that early stage where you make the most profit, you have to come in early. But it's behind the curtain. It's complicated. It's technologically complex. There's legalities, there's finance, there's SEC regulations. Like, oh my God, that's a lot for your brain. The stockbrokers used to take care of it and just tell me what to buy and what to sell and when. Now I got to figure this out for myself. Like, this is complicated. So we wanted to create a way not only for people to understand the ecosystem, to have investor education there. So right now we have role models. We're telling a lot of stories. We're sharing great podcasts like yours and your documentary, and we're going to do an event so we can show the incredible movie here in San Francisco to large groups. But there's so much education that needs to happen, and we're also working to mainstream. So there'll be a little bit of legislative affairs too, to educate the legislators on how this works, so we can really allow everybody to understand, because you can't invest in that which you can't understand. So I think
you've hit the nail on the head, that women haven't been investing in venture capital because they don't understand it. And if I may, I just want to say that's what we did with Show Her the Money, the movie, is when they walk out of the film, they completely understand how simple it is to understand, how they can access it, why they would want to, how important it is to the future, and how exciting and fascinating it is. And I think, we had to do that through storytelling about real people, real entrepreneurs. And I think that is why it's been a winning formula, is people never think of venture as being about real people, but this is real people, real stories, real products, and if they can relate to it, then they're going to want to be a part of it. And of course, that's the genius of what you're doing with the Entrepreneurship Network, Radivision, is we're trying to do storytelling to connect women to venture, to help them to understand what it is and what an incredibly exciting arena they want to step into.
Exactly. And it's the genius of what you've done with your movie, your podcast, and, your funds and other work. It's absolutely brilliant. And we're kind of just the television version of that, streaming media version. So it's very, not only do people not know it exists, so there's $72 trillion today in America. Actually, it's probably more than that, because the Federal Reserve releases the numbers a couple quarters late. So it's probably 80 trillion of wealth here, assets under management by retailer or non-institutional investors. So I've always worked with the institutions, with the IPOs, and I previously built the first private market platform for institutional investors. And I created the term private market, which didn't used to exist before, because companies went public in 3 to 5 years. So it didn't matter that you didn't know that first 3 to 5 years. You don't want to know how the sausage is made, because then they were nice and public after that, and you could eat all the sausage you wanted. You don't even have access today. You don't know where the deals are. They're hidden. Right. There's so much that's there behind the curtain. But I've been around for 3 decades. I know where the bodies are buried, a lot of them. There's so many that are there. It's impossible to know it all. I have a few of my own limbs and organs out there. I've earned my stripes to be here. And I want to save people from having to donate organs and, instead just bring them to success. And in my opinion, it's much harder to have a successful startup today. 99.95% are not going to get funded. The whole system, the whole venture capital system rests on the ability of companies to IPO. That's been broken for 25 years. I've written a lot on that. And so I'm tired of preaching to the choir. I'm just fixing it myself, which I did previously.
It needs to be fixed. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're talking about, out of that 72 trillion, if most registered investment advisors advise their clients to put 5 to 20% of their portfolio, which is the usual advice, that we're talking on average 9 trillion new dollars, 4 to 14 trillion in the US alone, and probably an equal amount or more internationally. So we're talking about bringing 18 trillion new dollars into fund startups. A lot of that can be done as angels. And then we would like, if your funds are being managed by Fidelity or Vanguard, that they can also invest on your behalf at a much larger amount. We know that for most of the past 25 years, private investments have delivered 70% or higher returns in the public markets. So regardless of bull market, you may think your numbers are going great and your portfolio is growing, but those who can get in the private level are doing 70 or 150% more. You're never going to catch up. And we can feel it. We can all feel it. And you can see in the late 90s when the infrastructure changed in the markets, when electronic trading came in and decimalization. So stockbrokers used to help my parents and others at 25 cents a share trade went to fractions of a penny. Immediately, they all left and stopped supporting people like my parents and went to very high net worth and worked as wealth advisors. So, they have families to support too. They couldn't create 2,500 times more hours in the day, but this is where technology, streaming technology and social media technology and AI from Radivision can come in and do it cheaply and do it at scale, very efficiently, and then refer. So just like ESPN refers clients interested in placing a sports bet, which is a regulated transaction, startup investing is also a regulated transaction. And so we refer to our versions of DraftKings or Caesars, and so that everything can follow along with compliance, with good advice for people who want and need the advice. And then we just offer educational materials and the right referrals to connect people. So, and you're doing really important pioneer work also, just letting people even know this exists, because 99% of the money doesn't even know that this is an opportunity.
Right. They don't. And, every city we've been to around the world, they're excited. They're excited to learn about this opportunity as an investor and or as an entrepreneur looking for funding. And I think if we can raise this awareness through your network, through our movie, through all these means, we can get more women investing in this alternative asset class that they didn't even know anything about. The education hasn't been there. Speaking of education, we're also creating a college program so that young women and men, but our focus is on women, can learn in college what venture capital is and how they could have it as a career path, as an investment path, as a funding path. If we could raise that awareness and that education and bring more people and more money into that arena, well, that's a game changer, right? That can help fix that system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually created a college course at Johns Hopkins University back in 2001 and 2 for entrepreneurship.
Of course you did.
I would do it very differently today, by the way. But I actually took the first course given in the DC area back in 1988. If I want to date myself, today is my birthday, so I can date myself.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. But it was like a really early stage. And it was the first course, and it was like ding, 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 ding. I knew what I wanted to do after 6 years of searching. I even graduated college early because I couldn't figure it out in college. And I thought the real world would show me, and it did. And then within 2-3 years, I was doing IPOs. And I've never done anything else. I've loved it the whole time. It's painful now to watch where this industry has gone. But as you know, it did start out being fun, and it did start out, with a lot of passion and creativity. And, this is part of our humanity. It's part of our spirit. It's who we are. And so that is why people get excited about it. It's natural. It just happens like that. That's why Shark Tank is a show after 15 years. How many TV shows after 15 years are even more popular than when they began? Like, that's a reverse phenomenon. So you have to study that. 60% or more of college students want to have an entrepreneurial career, whether it's with a big entrepreneurial company or a small one, or start their own. And that study was done in 2014, so it's probably even higher now. And I would recommend we even take your program to high school students, because we know, like, the governor in Michigan passed a law a couple of years ago that now they're going to teach finance in high school. How many of us said, like,
I love that.
Why am I studying math? Why am I not studying like investments and finance, which I need in my life?
Right.
We know that, yeah.
And we do
huge.
plan to put it into high schools. Absolutely.
Right. And I want to help you. We're actually building our own angel investment vertical right now and partnering with people. So if we can work together on this and get there faster and better and broader, let's do it together. That would be great. So everybody, you saw it here today live.
As it's happening.
Yeah. So it's very important to make people aware that this opportunity exists.
100%. And so, I know you are a pioneer in this arena, and I love your vision. So people can go to radivision.com and sign up as an entrepreneur or as a potential angel investor, right?
And it's just an enthusiast. If they want to just view startups, like they watch Shark Tank and they can just flip through 99-second quick pitches, little trailers, and so everybody can join.
Yeah, and so they can watch this online. That's the streaming aspect of it. And you're constantly bringing in new programming, right? So you probably have opportunities for people to develop the programming with you.
Absolutely. And we want a lot of user-generated content from the startups themselves, speaking for themselves. We just introduced our Bites, which are like our TikToks and Reels and Shorts, and we're calling it the new IR, the new investor relations, because this is how people connect. They watch these shorts. So a company that you found interesting, you can follow it and then see their little clip once a week. Oh, we just hired this person. We just closed this deal. We just got FDA approval for this device. Whatever the news is, and just short and fast. That's how people are in the world today. So they need to receive their investor information the way we are in the world today. And it's free to join, and it's free for the startups to join, and we connect everybody. And we're developing our AI now that will super match people and their needs and their advisors to the right deals, because it's a big, big world. And we need the intelligence to help us do it. So you're not wasting time, but you're actually seeing content you want.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So once you sign up, you'll be getting information about that. And what's the future? Like, how do you see this playing out?
Yeah, so my big vision is that every single fundraise, whether it's Sequoia's, multi-billion-dollar fund, or whether it's a new micro VC investing in women only, or whether it's a Robinhood ETF, or whatever fundraise there is out there, that a 5 to 20% component will be reserved for retail investors or Main Street investors, so that everybody can participate together. So this is new funding for venture capitalists, new funding for founders, new funding for, registered investment advisors who can now grow a business managing retail investors without having to dial for dollars for 2 million people, because the tech will do that for them and then just refer them the people that are looking for them and the ones they're looking for, and, make a match for them. And then they can pull together people who together have $1 million to invest, or 10 million or 30 million. It can go into IPOs and, or wherever is the right match for them. We're not an investment advisor. We're simply the media and tech platform that helps everybody connect and get smarter. And so we really want to, facilitate with ease and transparency this new $18 trillion of funding. And it's not more taxes. It's actually probably way less taxes and more jobs and more wealth created for everybody in the ecosystem. And then a lot of startups and founders who are using their lives. There's a lot of stress and, physical and mental health issues from what founders are going through now to try to raise against a system that's not supporting them. And that's an asset that America's losing. This is the best thing we do is innovate. It was baked into our Constitution. Thomas Jefferson built the patent system from day one, right? So we were a creative nation. Ben Franklin, we created our own country.
And in this day and age, you really got to have funding and connections to build a successful business. And so you're creating a platform to put them together, the founders and the funders, and then also provide the content, the education, and then the community so that they can connect, not just for funding, but also resources, opening doors to help build their business. Everybody needs connections and social capital, right? So it's great that you're building that platform to grow it into this vast community of people helping each other and an exciting community of learning about what's next. What are the innovations? We might be a person that doesn't create the innovations, but how cool to get to meet the people who do and get to invest in them. So yeah, it's amazing. And I can't wait to see where it goes.
A universe. Yeah. And like we created Sheconomics, which is a sub community within Radivision that support women in entrepreneurship. So whether you're an investor or whether you're a founder, and we've already started working with some partners. In fact, we need to bring you in as a partner too. I know we're partnering to have an event in San Francisco in November. But we have, I think, 10 organizations now that support women in entrepreneurship, and they're out there creating webinars and podcasts and events and valuable information. And everybody's working so hard separately to build an audience and get the word out there. Well, why don't we all come together? We can grow one massive audience. My goal is to bring at least 100 million people a month coming in. It's to consume this content. And if they like your podcast, they're probably going to like some of these other things as well and be able to connect and vice versa. And then we can have the founders all there in the same space. So we want to have very, very rich content, both our original content and this curated from all the people in the community. And then also from user-generated content, like from the companies. So Sheconomics is one community that's very rich. We've been growing it now for 3 years. But we also have the green economy is going to be coming on board soon. And then Equity IQ will be our education vertical because equity is complicated. But we say equity is the new money in the entrepreneurial revolution. It can grow way faster than currency. So cryptocurrency is just currency.
Yeah, I have an online publication that will be a great match for what you're doing too. We've got to curate it so everybody's coming to one place so you can build it to that 100 million. Absolutely.
Exactly. And then this is all our community. Everybody benefits and grows from this. We do it together because, the algorithms on YouTube and TikTok just don't match what we're doing. And so you stumble across stuff. But here we're building from within a very powerful.
And I've noticed that there's just so many women's groups out there, which is great. I'm so happy to see more and more that are for entrepreneurs and for investors. But wouldn't it be great to have everybody come into one arena? Because the power is in everybody coming together. I really believe that.
Exactly. It's not about competing to get to be number one. It's about collaborating to, for everybody to get to number one. And that's not a misnomer. I truly believe in it. And, it's different. The feminine, divine feminine way sees things differently. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for, seeing this vision early on and being creative using your art, in filmmaking to really tell the story and inform so many people in a powerful way. And I've loved following all of the stories and all the communities that you've built all over the world now. It's just so powerful.
Thank you. And I take it you're still fundraising for this endeavor. Like, who isn't?
Oh, yeah. I mean, most streaming companies have 100 million, like Hulu did from day one, right?
Yeah.
Providence Equity came in and gave them 100 million for 10% of the company. It was worth $1 billion from day one in 2007. But when Disney bought the last piece in 2009, they were negotiating at a $28 billion, total enterprise value. So I guess that was probably my biggest error, is I didn't realize how big it was that I was building and that it would take a long time. And of course, nobody saw COVID coming. And I thought, well, I built the private markets and people know what I did. They'll fund this. No, we didn't fit in the little teeny tiny cookie cutter that venture had, and we had many strikes, female founder and, a few other things. But I don't let that stop me. The impossible only takes a little bit longer.
And you know what? The Dalai Lama says the Western women will save the world. And I think it's just about to start happening, and things like this that are going to bring together women entrepreneurs and get to more women to be funders and investors. This is what's going to, that's the power in it, because, women impact 80% of the buying decisions. Why aren't we impacting more than 50% of the investment decisions?
Well, we will, now that everybody knows.
Exactly. That combination
is,
yes, that combination is super powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important for people to realize, like, we are in the entrepreneurial revolution. This isn't the industrial revolution. It's not the agricultural revolution. Equity is the new money. And it can't be just behind a curtain where the top 1% is making, 70 to 150 percent more than everybody else is. We see that is exactly how the world has bifurcated right now. It's topsy-turvy and the whole thing breaks apart. We saw it in the French Revolution, in Rome, ancient Rome, and it's happening again today. So the fabric of society has to come back together. Everybody needs to succeed, and everybody needs to speak the language of the new revolution. We can't all be farmers anymore in the agricultural revolution.
What I love about what we are doing is democratizing this asset class for everyone to have access to it, both for funding and for investing. And that's the exciting part. We're on a revolutionary path, right?
We are.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being a guest and talking about your incredible vision. Everybody's got to check out Radivision. It's Radivision for those that are just listening today. Check it out, become a member, and tell your friends about it. Mona, how do they find you? Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Mona@Radivision.com. And I'm so proud to be on this path with you, my fellow revolutionary, and very excited to partner with you.
Me too. And for those listening, Mona spells her last name DeFrawi. You can find me too on LinkedIn, Catherine Gray, Catherine with a C, Gray with an A. We're so happy that you took the time to tune in today. Also check out our movie site, showherthemoneymovie.com. Also has resources. Follow us on social. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.